Your glutes aren't growing like they should. And it's not because you're not lifting heavy enough. Tight hips are stealing your gains, limiting your range, killing activation, and holding back your shape. Fix this, and your glutes will look rounder, fuller, and way more sculpted. I'm giving you 3 simple mobility drills that will unlock your hips and turn every rep into a glute building machine.
Hello people, my name is Clara and I am a personal trainer with over 20 years of experience and I am specialized in training glutes. Let's go to the video.
If your hips are tight, your glutes aren't growing like they should. Here's the deal. When your hips move through their full range, your glutes stretch further, contract harder, and generate way more force with every rep. And that deep stretch under load, that's where the real growth happens. That's when your glutes do the most work. But if your hips are stiff, your range is cut short. Your glutes aren't firing at full capacity. And that means less activation, less shape, and slower gains. Think about it. If you can't hinge deep in an RDL or sink low in a squat, you're cutting off the most effective part of the movement. And when that happens, you're losing growth. Simple as that. That's why these 3 mobility drills are amazing. They'll open up your hips, unlock full glute activation, and help you build rounder, fuller glutes. The first exercise is the seated good morning. If you want to improve your squat kickbacks and the overall glute activation, this one is key. A strong hip hinge is the foundation of lower body training. If you're not hinging correctly, your glutes aren't working as well as they should, and your lower back takes on extra strain. The seated good morning helps you learn to move from the hips while keeping your back straight. It strengthens your glutes, hamstrings, and lower back while also loosening up tight hips and groin muscles, which can make squats and kickbacks feel smoother and stronger. This exercise also teaches proper hip mechanics, making it easier to hinge deeply in Romanian deadlifts, squats, and other glute-dominant movements. Sit on a bench with your feet slightly wider than hip width. Keep your back straight and chest up. This is key for maintaining good posture. Tilt your pelvis slightly forward by engaging your lower back and relaxing your glutes. This stops you from rounding your lower back and makes sure the movement comes from your hips. Slowly hinge forward, leading with your chest until you feel a deep stretch in your glutes, hamstrings, and possibly your groin. Push through your glutes and hamstrings to bring yourself back up. Stay in control the whole time. This isn't about going fast, move slowly and focus on feeling the stretch. The biggest mistake, rounding the back instead of hinging at the hips. If your lower back is doing the work, your glutes aren't. Instead of bending forward, push your hips back and keep your core tight. Think about moving from your hips, not rounding your spine. Another mistake, collapsing the chest instead of maintaining posture. If you struggle with this, try to think about keeping your chest proud and your spine long as you move through the hinge. Once you've mastered the basic movement, you can add a weight to increase the stretch and build more strength. Here's how to do it. Hold a dumbbell or a barbell on your upper back, just like you would in a squat. Keep the same technique, hinging forward slowly while keeping your back straight and core brace. The added weight will increase the stretch in your glutes and hamstrings while forcing your core to work harder to maintain posture. This progression adds a strength-building element to the movement. Adding this before your workouts will make your squats, kickbacks, and hip thrusts feel smoother, stronger, and more controlled. Now let's move on. The next exercise is all about opening up the hip flexors and improving glute activation. Next up, the split squat, but with a focus on the back leg. This isn't just for leg strength. It's a key mobility drill that opens up your hips, improves movement, and helps your glutes fire properly. If you spend a lot of time sitting, your hip flexors get tight and stiff, and when that happens, it limits your ability to fully extend your hips, making it harder for your glutes to activate properly. Tight hip flexors don't just affect squats and lunges. They also hold back movements like kickbacks, where full hip extension is key. If your hips can't open up fully, your glutes can't contract at their max potential, which means weaker activation and less muscle growth. This version of the split squat helps stretch and strengthen the hip flexors, while also reinforcing the right way to extend the hips, by using your glutes, not by arching your lower back. Step into a split squat position with one foot forward and the other foot either on the ground or elevated behind you. Tilt your pelvis slightly backward by engaging your abs and squeezing your glutes. This is crucial. It stops your lower back from arching and makes sure the movement comes from your hips. Lower down slowly, keeping your pelvis tucked until you feel a deep stretch in your hip flexor. Push through your front foot to come back up. Keep your glutes and abs tight the whole time. The goal isn't just to move up and down, it's to teach your hips how to extend properly. The biggest mistake, letting your lower back arch instead of extending from the hips. If your pelvis is tilting forward and your lower back is doing the work, your glutes aren't engaging fully. Instead, brace your core, squeeze your glutes, and focus on hip extension, not just dropping down and pushing up. Another mistake, rushing through the reps without feeling the stretch in the back leg. This is a mobility drill, not just a leg exercise. Take your time and focus on the stretch. Once you feel comfortable with the basic split squat, you can increase the hip opening effect by adding an upper body rotation. Here's how to do it. As you lower into the split squat, rotate your upper body. Keep your core engaged and rotate smoothly, feeling the stretch deepen in your psoas and hip flexors. Return to the starting position and repeat. This extra rotation helps open up the hip even more, loosening deep tightness in the psoas muscle while reinforcing better hip mobility. Over time, this will make movements like squats, lunges, and kickbacks feel stronger and smoother. Add this to your routine and you'll notice less hip tightness, better kickback range, and stronger glute activation in every workout. Now, let's move on. The next exercise is all about unlocking full hip rotation for even better movement. Now for the third and final exercise, the 90-90 hip rotation. This one is great for unlocking better movement, improving glute activation, and building a fuller and rounder shaped butt. If your hip mobility is limited, you're not using your glutes to their full potential, which can lead to imbalanced growth and weaker activation in key movements like squats and lunges. The 90-90 hip rotation improves both internal and external hip rotation, helping you sink deeper into squats, improve movement efficiency, and make every glute exercise more effective. Sit on the floor with both knees bent at 90-degree angles, one leg in front, one to the side. Keep your chest up and your core engaged to maintain good posture. Slowly rotate your hips, switching your knees from one side to the other while staying in control. This isn't just about shifting side to side. It's about building strength and control through your full range of motion. The biggest mistake, using too much movement from your lower back instead of your hips. If you find yourself twisting through your spine instead of rotating from the hips, focus on keeping your core engaged and moving only from the hip joint. Think of your pelvis leading the motion, not your back. Once you feel comfortable with the basic 90-90 hip rotation, you can take it a step further. After each transition, move into a short pigeon stretch for a few seconds. This adds a deeper glute stretch and challenges your hip mobility even more. This extra challenge will help open up your hips even more and improve flexibility. making your glutes more engaged and responsive in every exercise. Now you've got 3 powerful mobility drills to help shape fuller, rounder and more lifted glutes.
Drop a comment below if you had ever struggled with hip mobility or if you had tried these exercises before. I would love to hear from you. Thank you for watching and I will see you in the next one.